work is programming, I'm already using source control. It's not actually that big of a deal because stuff's already, always already on GitHub. It's just a matter of committing and pushing my changes on one machine and then pulling them on the other.
Yeah, and I usually switch if I'm doing Ruby. I do some of the development on my local machine and some of my development in the cloud on a box in DigitalOcean because I can, and I could beef that sucker up as much as I want, and it doesn't cost hardly anything. So, yeah, my experience is the same there. As far as iOS projects, I've been playing with NativeScript lately, and I've also been playing with Swift lately, and it doesn't seem to make a big difference because I'm used to the workflow with Git. So my experience kind of mirrors what Andrew said.
Okay, so if you're using, your GitHub or whatever your repository is for keeping your code up to date, you just gotta make sure you're pushed on a branch or whatever. What about like documents, like random stuff that you have around, specs? Can you keep those update, or do you have a method for that? Dropbox?
Yeah, Dropbox is what I use. Yeah, Dropbox and to some degree iCloud. I actually like iCloud Drive. Dropbox sometimes annoys me for reasons that are not Dropbox's fault, but just because I've got a lot of shared folders. So
yeah,
people, somebody else uploads a bunch of files, and then I'm on a tethered connection, and suddenly I'm downloading a bunch of stuff that I didn't really expect. So I actually don't keep it running all the time.
Yeah, for me with Dropbox, what I do is I actually you can set it up to only sync certain folders. I think they call it selective sync. And so most of my shared folders are not synced to my computer. So
well, I do that,
but
then
pushing around.
Then inevitably I do actually need one of those shared folders, and so I have to go into selective sync and turn it on. And anyway, it's a little bit of a pain, but that's not really because I have two machines. It's because if you're going to use a device that's tethered ever and want to avoid huge downloads, then Dropbox has that problem.
Yep.
Are you still on the free plan for Dropbox, or are you paying for it?
Unfortunately, paying for it. But I guess they're giving us like a terabyte of space now, so it is nice.
Yeah, I'm paying for it as well, and yeah, I get a terabyte of space, and I think it costs me like $100 a year or something. I mean, it's some number that's ridiculously low compared to the amount of space I can put stuff up in the cloud, so I just pay for it. But I also use it to transfer all of the podcast episodes and stuff so that Mandy can edit them. So
I imagine that gets a little bit big.
Yeah, I haven't even come close to maxing it out yet, but yeah, it definitely takes up some space. So
no, I'm still on the free plan, and I got a video from a concert I recorded with my band, and the guy who recorded it dropped it on Dropbox, and now my Dropbox is full. It was like 600 minutes for an hour show, and like, all right, I got to figure out how to get this thing off there or upgrade. And if I was having more than one development machines, which I haven't had for a year or two, I'd probably pony up. Still keep it free.
But
free
even
mode.
then, I mean, there are other options for documents. You can put them all into Google Docs or something, and they're free up to a certain amount too. So I'm curious, are there tools that you use? I mean, I think Xcode's kind of a given most of the time. I know there are other options, but what tools do you use to actually build your iOS apps? Like IDEs or other development tools?
Xcode is certainly by far the primary thing. As far as other apps I use BBEdit and TextMate. I sort of switch off between them for text editing because BBEdit's good at some things that TextMate's not, and vice versa. But I don't really code in either of those. I use them, I'll open them and use like their sort of nice find replace feature or something like that. But it's not where I'm writing most of my code. Xcode for that for sure. Another really big one for me is Dash, which I think I've at least picked it if we haven't talked about it on an episode, but Dash is a documentation viewer that's not specific to Mac and iOS development at all, but is really nice for those, and I like it better than Xcode's built-in documentation viewer. So
yeah, I've used Dash as well, and I really like it. One other tool that I use pretty frequently is Emacs, and it's just because I have so much muscle memory kind of tied up in it that when I'm writing stuff, I tend to just go there. Xcode does a lot for you with um, iOS and Mac development, so I'm definitely in there a lot when I'm building those apps. But anything else that I can do, I will do in Emacs.
Yeah, I mostly use Xcode for the iOS development. I tried using AppCode with one project a while back, and it was one of those massive projects that I worked on that was 20-minute compile time if we rebuilt everything,
Sheesh.
just because we had 20 years of code in some of the libraries. And AppCode wouldn't even load. And hopefully they fixed it now, but it just tried living on overnight and just didn't happen, ran out of memory and just kind of hung there. And I never got around to working with them to get it resolved. They were actually very helpful. Like they were, hey, can you send me those kind of files? And I sent them a few, but I didn't get too much farther with it. I get the feeling I would really like AppCode. JetBrains does really good work in general. If you're in the .NET world, you know, they do Visual Studio. They have an add-on for that. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's kind of one of the standards and really great tools for a lot of refactorings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't remember. ReSharper?
ReSharper, yeah.
Okay, yeah, JetBrains. That's a really solid tool. And I'm not doing that much C# and I haven't done any .NET in quite a while. For Ruby stuff, I use Sublime Text, and I end up having to jump between a lot of different languages sometimes. Most of my work is iOS, but I get the occasional back-end work I need to figure out, and I like Sublime. It just has reasonable defaults for JavaScript, Perl, and Ruby. I tried setting up Emacs for Ruby development, and every time I mess with Emacs, I ended up not getting anything done because I'm messing with Emacs for 3 hours.
That's half the fun.
And it's half the fun, but I was like, I wanted to get something done, and Sublime just has kind of reasonable, okay, defaults, allows me to get done. Doesn't give me the super workflow, but like you, I have Emacs key bindings like in my fingers, so I drop down to Emacs when I need to. I like to, like editing pod files or cart files, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for sustained development, Sublime or Xcode.
Now, I'm kind of curious too. Do any of you use continuous integration or anything for your apps, or doing any kind of continuous build or deployment?
Yeah, I do, and I want to talk about that. But I want to ask you guys first, if you don't mind. What do either of you use anything for source control besides the command line?
No. Just
Well, that was
command
easy.
line Git.
Yeah,
You-
Mike gets all command line,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I use the command line like 99.9% of the time, but I do have Tower and source tree. Git Tower and source tree can do both Mercurial and Git. I have those installed, and I don't know. Occasionally I find something where I don't really know how to do it on the command line, but if I fire up one of those, I can figure it out more easily. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I think Git Tower, I've used it a few times, but it's only when I get into a really, really hairy merge. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I use them for is difficult merges. And there's actually a GitHub client called GitHub
Mm-hmm.
for Mac or something like that it's sort of, it's not really just, I mean, it could be used this way, but it's really sort of meant to go with a normal GitHub workflow and can do like pull requests and that sort of thing, and that's actually pretty nice way to manage working on a GitHub repo. Use it occasionally.
Yeah, it's a cool tool, and it does a lot. It also does a lot to just help you, like you said, manage the project, not just manage your source code.
Right, which is what I like about it.
So continuous integration.
Yeah, so we do this at Mixed in Key, and I'm the one that is somehow ended up responsible for the whole thing, and we use Jenkins. The main reason for that is the main reason we're not using the Xcode bots stuff that Xcode has now is that we use Mercurial, and Xcode only supports Git. But beyond that, Jenkins, we've been using it. I think we've been using it since before Xcode bots came out, and I know it pretty well and know how to set it up. We actually run it on a Mac Mini that I host here at my house, so that's kind of nice because, I mean, it has its upsides and downsides, but the machine is in my house, so I can reboot it if I need to, or hook it up to a monitor and do something if it needs to. I put new RAM in it not very long ago, that kind of thing.
You get the Slack message. Go over and kick the server. Okay.
Yeah, it happens. Well, it actually doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. It seems like it happens like right in the middle of a vacation usually. Where sorry.
Yeah, let me just reach through the internet and poke it. Yeah, I don't do I do it for Ruby. I do continuous integration. I'm working on continuous deployment. I haven't really done it for iOS, and that's mainly just out of a pure lack of desire to figure it out. I think once I get a little deeper into the iOS ecosystem, then I'll probably be a little more interested in it. But for right now, I'm not. Yeah, I've been using Circle CI for my continuous integration. I used Jenkins in the past at past employers, and setting it up isn't too terribly difficult, but getting it to work with something that's not Java in some cases was kind of painful. And the other thing was that we almost always wanted something custom out of it, and so in order to go customize it, we had to go dig into a bunch of Java code and try not to do anything stupid because we didn't understand everything that was going on in it. So, I mean, that was the real issue that I ever had with Jenkins, was just that it wasn't as easy for me to hack as anything else. Of course, now I'm using closed source systems, so
we've had really good luck with Jenkins actually overall.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah. Once we had it set up, it was great.
Yeah, but it did take me a while. There was a learning curve, and it took me a while to figure out how to sort of massage it into a point where it did what we need. One thing that we actually use it for, I get a little confused by the terminology, but it not only does builds when people push changes to make sure that the build's not broken and run tests and all that, but it actually uploads those builds to our deployment system. So our OS 10 builds, and then for iOS it uploads them to TestFlight automatically. So it's also used for essentially for distributing our builds. We have to go flip a switch, of course, to release a particular build to the wider world and not just for internal testing. But that streamlining of our release process has been really nice. It helps us to release updates much more quickly and easily and more often than we did before.
So are you just building off master, or do you have other branches you build off?
We build off master. So if master is sort of our release branch, and then we'll develop features on separate branches. Those don't get released until they're merged in. Sometimes if we're doing something really big where we need builds of the feature as it goes, I'll just set up another job on Jenkins that will build that branch. And our deployment system, which we wrote, has support for that kind of thing. So you can have multiple channels for a given app. For our OS 10 apps, for TestFlight, it's not quite so simple because it's Apple's thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the client I've been working with, we've got a Jenkins system, and we do something similar where there's auto builds off master. It also develops, so stuff that we're checking in gets tested. We also build feature branches, and we've got a convention, so we can name the branch a certain way, and it gets tagged, associated with the Jira ticket. And the great thing about that is it also gets kind of compiled and set up with an enterprise distribution. So if I'm working on a branch, I got a feature tag through it. I can tag it with the feature, name it something, and the designer I'm working with can check it out, see what I'm doing, see if it looks correctly, or QA can take a look at it and make sure everything's working. So that's one of the things where CI can really help. If you have other people on the team that need to review what you're doing, I did this button or this background, does it look right? They can just do it. Otherwise, you're going through the whole test flight dance, whatever you do to make it give a build that someone else can see. So that can save a lot of time. And I've had a couple of clients that use Jenkins, but they've always had someone full-time who is in charge of that role in doing operations and keeping Jenkins going. So a fair amount of commitment to it, but it's worked well and allows the developers to keep developing and let everyone else see what they're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had another question and I forgot it. So
I was just going to say, for us, having our iOS apps go out to test flight twice a day, which is what we do, has been really good for the same reason James said, because we can make changes, and then for people that need to review them, I don't have to do anything. I just wait, and they know a new build will pop up at about 1 o'clock, and then another one about 6 o'clock every day, and I don't have to go through the annoyance of submitting to test flight twice a day, which is not horrible, but it's distracting.
So how you use TestFlight changed since Apple brought it in house?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, I don't think it's changed. We were using it for internal testing and also for external beta testing before Apple bought it, but maybe not directly related to Apple buying it. But since that happened, Fastlane has come out, and Fastlane is really what made it so it was easy for me to set up a continuous integration system that would upload to TestFlight, which is, I mean, we did that whole episode on Fastlane, but haven't mentioned it yet today. But that's actually now, Fastlane is a huge part of our continuous integration setup. It's kind of hard to believe we used to not have it.
Yeah, cool. I found TestFlight to be very useful now that it's set up within Apple, but a huge pain to set up. Before, setting up a TestFlight for a new client was just was easy. It took me a half hour to get something up there, something they could download, and I had to go through a huge rigmarole just to get everything set up. Because the person with the Apple ID has to set it up. They invite you. You have to be an iTunes Connect user. You can't have the same email address between two ones, so I have to create an email alias.
They fixed that.
They did? Okay.
Yeah, just not very long ago.
Okay.
That's quite nice.
Yeah, last summer when I had to do all this, I'm like, I have to create a new email alias. Okay, add me again to iTunes Connect and give me this access. But I'm glad that's fixed.
Yeah, so for me, where I'm not doing contract or work for multiple clients, it's not a big deal to set up a new app, but it is quite a pain when you want to get added to a new team, especially if the person that's sort of helping you doesn't really know how to do it, because the UI for iTunes Connect and the developer portal is not exactly easy to figure out if you've never seen it before.
Yeah, they're a CEO and something non-technical. They're running the company. They want an app, but yeah, they don't really know what's going on. So it's like, okay, walk them through these steps. Add me here. Do this. Click these things. That's how it goes.
Yep. So how about your desk setup? I'm kind of curious. If you're watching the video, we are recording this on Google Hangouts. You can probably see that I'm standing up. I'm actually kind of sitting down. I'm leaning on this Mogo seat, and it's specifically made for standing desks. If I've been up and about a lot during the day, then I'll pull it out and sit on it, and it's kind of nice. But I feel like it gets me upright, and that's a good thing. And so it's just the Lifehacker IKEA standing desk that I'm standing at. But most of the time when I'm coding, I'm actually sitting down. And I actually have, a lot of people are amused by this, but it's basically a cubicle in my home office. And yeah, so I just sit here. I've got a ton of desk space. It's a total disaster right now, so I'm not going to turn the camera. But and then I have a Herman Miller Aeron chair that is very nice to sit in. And yeah, I actually bought a footrest off Amazon for like $20. Slid it under my desk so I put my feet up when I code. Then I've got two monitor arms where I sit. I've got a dual monitor arm thingy where I stand, and then I've got my the mixer board is right below my laptop, and I've got a second monitor on that, and then a tray for the laptop. So that's my two screens over here, and then I have a docking station, a Thunderbolt docking station for both places where I sit. So I just move the laptop. I just unplug it, move it over, and plug it back in.
That's cool. Yeah, I've got a standing desk too, and I've had it for about a year. I bought the Veridesk, which allows you to go up and down within a few. It really takes me 5-10 seconds if I want to go up and down. So I can do it.
Is that one of the ones that you stick on a regular desk and then lift it up and down?
Yeah, it just sits on. It's pretty huge. I bought the biggest one, which is really bigger than I needed. I mean, I've got a Thunderbolt display, which is pretty wide. And I used to have Thunderbolt and my MacBook set up side by side, and I wanted to do that. and I thought it would be wide enough, but I bought the 48 inch, which is massive, and I really can't fit them both side. I can't fit the Thunderbolt in the middle and my MacBook off to the side a little bit, so that doesn't quite fit. So I didn't need one this big, but it's massive. I got a lamp sitting on my desk, and I just keep light going in. But it's cool. I can go. I mean, I can go down in 10 seconds. So I'd be working, coding along. Oh, my knees are getting a little sore. Go back down, and I'm sitting. One drawback is it raises your desk about 4 inches, and with the Thunderbolt monitor, you can't lower it. So I had to buy a new chair. I had a chair I was reasonably happy with, and I had to buy a taller one. And I had my heart set on a Herman Miller chair, because they're great chairs, and no standard chairs go high enough for me to work at this desk as it is. So I had to buy a drafting chair. You can buy the Herman Miller drafting chair, but it's like $1,200. I'm like, well, let's try this out. So I tried a cheaper one, which it's an okay chair, not the greatest thing, but I'm happy, being able to stand up and sit down as I need to. So I'm pretty happy with my Veridesk, but you don't need 48 inches.
Nice. I've been looking at those motorized ones, but that are sit-stand desks, but I just haven't sprung for it yet. What about you, Andrew?
My desk setup's a lot more boring than you guys. I just have a desk from IKEA. I can't really remember. You just buy the desktop and the legs, and I've had it for forever. And my chair is also from IKEA. It's sort of I don't know. It's one that comes up on lists of good, decent chairs that are not super expensive. I'd really like to get a standing desk set up, but just haven't yet. I do use 2 monitors. I have my 27-inch iMac, and then I have another 27-inch screen by Dell that I put next to it. So I need a fairly wide desk, and this one is. But one of these days I'll get a standing desk.
Yeah, my issue was that I kept trying to talk my wife into the $1,000 sit-stand desk with a motor in it, and she kept saying, "Do you need it?" And I'm, strictly speaking, no. But I could talk her into the $30 I spent for the parts for the Lifehacker IKEA desk. So yeah, I have to move my laptop back and forth, but anyway, so that's kind of, and now that I use it all the time, I think I could talk her into it if we were in a position where we had the extra money to spend on it. But. Is there anything else to your setup? Anything else that you have that you can't live without with your coding or just your habits as you work throughout the day?
Yeah, so I do some hardware engineering, partly just for fun, but I also have a project that I'm working on now that's not just for fun, where I'm doing hardware. So to my left, I have a full workbench set up with a stereo microscope and soldering iron and parts drawers and all that. And having that close to my computer is nice because the stuff I work on typically has software that goes along with it. And then, of course, another big one is music. During the time I'm working, I like to listen to music. So I have decent speakers, and I've got my tape decks and that kind of stuff right next to me.
Nice. Yeah, for my music, I just use I have a little CAN Bluetooth speaker, and I'm usually listening to podcasts, so the fidelity isn't as important because it's just voice. But when I am listening to music, I usually just pop in some headphones. So I've got the Sony headphones that I'm wearing right now as we do the podcast that I'll use a lot. I also have some Bose noise-canceling headphones that I use at the coffee shop or cafe, and then the rest of the time I'm just using the regular Apple EarPods. I think James is also a music junkie, though. What is your music setup, James?
So for coding, it's quiet most of the time. If I had to really think on a problem, which is a lot of my developments, then I usually don't have it on. If I do have it on, if you get some brain dead tasks where you're copying and pasting and stuff like that, I've just got Spotify going, and I got it going through my Thunderbolt display, which isn't the greatest quality, but decent for computer speakers. So I do that, and every once in a while I listen to music and work. Okay, then I they go upstairs to like my regular stereo setup, put on a CD or LP or something, and like it sounds so much better upstairs. Like you kind of listening to the stream music kind of removes your ability to enjoy music after a while, but gradually. But
Well, there's something to be said, I think, for being used to listening to the kind of crappy sounding music, and then you go listen to it on your real stereo, and it just sounds so much better that it blows you away because you're not used to it.
true, I get that quite often. If it's been a few days before I've listened to anything upstairs, from a CD, I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. And you don't notice how bad it sounds when you're listening to it, but you can tell the difference for sure.
Yep.
What about coding music? So Chuck, you listen to podcasts. What type of tunes do you listen to, Andrew?
I can't listen to podcasts while I'm working because I can't. I just won't be able to. I just, I'm listening to it, but it's going in one ear and out the other. So I only listen to podcasts like when I'm driving. But I listen to all kinds of music. By that I mean listen to all kinds of music that I like while I'm coding. There's not really a particular kind that's good for me or bad for me. I listen to a lot of classic rock. I listen to a lot of new music. I like sort of modern classical. And a handful of other things. It just depends on what mood I'm in. I know some people though that they only listen to instrumental music when they're working or something like that, but that's not how I do things.
Yeah, if I need to get into the zone and I'm listening to music, then it has to be instrumental. It can't have lyrics to it because I just get totally distracted. And yeah, so anyway, I have a collection of classical music that I bought off of iTunes. I'll see if I can find it and put a link to it in the show notes. And then I'm trying to think. I listen to some electronic music. It's really funny though because I'm kind of picky about that. Some of it's really good and some of it isn't. There's also a program out there called Focus at Will, and they play music, and it's like Oriental or Eastern style music and all kinds of stuff, but it's got a very specific cadence and types of sounds that can kind of help you get in the zone. And sometimes it really works for me well, and sometimes I'm just, I put it in and I'm just like, okay, this is putting me to sleep. So, it just depends on what I'm after. But a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm sitting down and I'm, doing some busy work to manage something for the podcasts or, do social media, or, I'm just browsing through email and kind of cleaning out all the stuff that I can answer in 2 seconds or less without thinking too much. And so when I'm doing that, I'll usually listen to a podcast because I have enough free cycles in my brain to kind of process through whatever it is. So it just depends on what I'm doing more than anything else. But yeah, I'll put a link to the classical music, and then somebody got me turned on to Dead Mouse, which is kind of, sometimes I'm in the mood for that, sometimes I'm not, just depending on the music and the rhythm and things like that. But there are a few others I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I've got a playlist in iTunes that I just turn on. And then if I really need to get pumped up, then I have a couple of songs that I do use for that too. Usually it's stuff off of a Rocky soundtrack, believe it or not. So
I was about to say that. I bet Chuck's got the Rocky theme going.
Yep.
It is a good one.
No, I'm pretty particular about the music I listen to when I'm coding and need to focus. It's usually instrumental, and that's largely classical or jazz. Like Bach's cello suites are pretty cool. They just keep going, and I like Mahler, his symphonies, which most people probably wouldn't like that much, but I've heard them enough. They can just kind of go on in the background. Bill Frisell, it's kind of jazz guitarist. Jazz doesn't really describe what he sounds like. A lot of just real spacious ambient music. Fits in the background really well. So I listen to quite a bit of Bill Frisell. But if I'm in a loud place, I turn on the white noise. Put on the headphones. I just play some white noise, and there's some playlists off Spotify which do okay just to drown out extra sounds. For those who don't know what white noise is, it's just random sound, and it sounds like the television. Well, televisions don't do this anymore, but if you had a television hooked to no signal, it just sounds like static. And It's noise, so it masks out other noise, but your brain doesn't focus on it. So it just kind of lets you. It's there. It drowns out other sounds, but your brain's not paying attention to it. Like if I listen to songs with lyrics, I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm thinking about the lyrics and instead of my code. So sometimes I'll just drop down to white noise, especially if I'm at a co-working spot that's a little bit loud. I think white noise works pretty well.
Yeah, I have a white noise app on my phone. I think it's called White Noise, and I've used that at hotels. I think the worst that I ever had it at a hotel, I went to RubyConf in Atlanta, and I booked myself into the Hyatt that was around the corner from the conference venue. And the center of the hotel was just a big open to the air space all the way down to the lobby. So even though I was on the 11th floor, I was getting all the echoes out of the main place. And so yeah, I hooked my phone up to my little CAN speaker and then turned on some white noise. And they have like rain and heavy rain, and they have ocean waves and things like that. But then they also have just generic white noise that, as James said, is kind of the random, soft noise that just drowns everything else out. So one other thing I'm going to briefly mention with my gear is I have a little tower that I take when I go co-working, especially if I'm going co-working. It has 8 plugs on it and 4 USB plugs. And anyway, it just sits on the table and has a reasonably long cord that you can plug into the wall wherever you're at. And so that way, we can have, 8 or so people sitting around the table all plugged into the same power source and share power. And because it has the 4 USB plugs, then people can plug their phones in and stuff too. The other one that I have, and this is something that Alondo picked a while back, I bought the plug bug because I was going to Amsterdam. And one thing that's really nice about it is that it hooks onto your power supply like the cord or the little short, I don't know what to call it, but anyway, it has the little attachment for the plug. This goes on like that, and it adapts for different international power things if you get the plug bug world. But it also has a USB port on it, so you can charge your phone and your laptop at the same time off of the same plug, which is nice.
Yeah, I've got a colleague who does sales and travels a lot, and he's got devices like that he takes with him to airports. He calls them his friend makers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can always, like, if you can help someone out, like all the plugs might be full, but hey, if I plug in here, you can plug in, and everyone can plug in, and you're all good to go.
Yeah, they're really handy that way. Any other bits of stuff that go into coding that we haven't talked about? I will take the silence as a no. Should we get to picks then?
Let's do it.
All right. Andrew, what are your picks?
I've just got one pick today. I had another one, but I couldn't. I know I was thinking about it, but I couldn't remember it. So I'm gonna pick Open Radar, which I've probably picked before, but and going along with Open Radar, I'm also just gonna pick filing radars with Apple. I think filing. So for those that don't know, filing a radar with Apple means filing a bug report with Apple, and you can use this to file to report bugs in in the SDKs or in Xcode or even just in apps that are that are Apple apps that come with the operating system. You can use it to file bugs that are operating system bugs, and it has a little bit of a bad reputation. Partly it deserves that because it's kind of a black hole and it could be designed better for external users. But at the same time, this is sort of our only way to tell Apple about problems that need to be fixed. And it's really true that Apple can't fix things that they don't know about, and there are good engineers inside of Apple that do care and want to fix things that we report. So file radars, and then Open Radar is a site where you can post your radar, your bug report, so that other people can see it. Open Radar is public, and it's basically like a mirror of bugs that are filed with Apple, but it does require you to file a bug there yourself. So I like it, though. I sometimes just go visit and kind of look through the bugs that people have filed today, because there's a list of recent bugs on top page. It also makes it easy if you're hitting into a bug that somebody else has also had. You can file your report as a duplicate of theirs, and that helps Apple sort of organize things. So that's my pick.
All right, James, what are your picks?
All right, I'm going to do one pick. I'm going to do a TV show pick, and I'm going to go to the Wayback Machine for this one. Twin Peaks made the news in the past year or so. They're doing a sequel series, another season, I guess you call it. But I had never seen the original episodes. I remember it was on. I maybe watched one episode, and people talked about it. It was a thing, and I just kind of tuned it out for 25 years or whatever. But I went through and watched it. It's on Netflix, and it's really great. The first season is amazing. If you're familiar with David Lynch's work, it's weird and occasionally disturbing, and that's just how he goes. So if you're okay with that, it's worth checking out. But great mystery. Season 1's pretty concise. Season 2 kind of basically sprawls. There's 22 episodes, which when I first looked at it, I'm like, that's insane. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to get bored halfway through, but I'll see how it goes. But I made it through all 22 episodes, and I thought it was great. It just kind of sprawls out like a soap opera. I was trying to explain. I was watching it to my wife community, like, what's happening here? Who's that person? Like, well, he's. And by the time I explained it, I realized I was actually watching a soap opera because the plot had twisted so many times. I had no way to explain who this person was without going on for like a half hour. But it's really good. So I recommend Twin Peaks, and they're redoing. I don't know if they're shooting yet, but they're gonna do a season 3, 25 years later, new TV show. So I'm pretty excited for that. But yeah, check out Twin Peaks.
Plus one on that. I love Twin Peaks. The second season is a little odd because I think they thought they were going to get canceled halfway through, and then they ended up not getting canceled, or they something like that anyway. So the story kind of went off in a weird direction. But I'm excited for the new one, and that's definitely worth watching if you've never watched it. I also just want to say I really love David Duchovny's role in Twin Peaks. This is pre X-Files.
Yeah, that's definitely a plot twist right there.
But we'll leave it as a surprise.
All right.
But after 25 years, though, spoilers don't really count, do they?
No, but if you're trying to get people to watch the show.
That's right. That's true. And Heather Graham, a very young Heather Graham, shows up at the end.
All right. So I've got two things. One pick is sometimes I miss events. Like I've been watching the presidential debates, and I want to stay up on what's going on, and so I've been going to torrents.eu. That's torrentz.eu. You can find other stuff that is questionably legal, but anyway, I generally just use it for things that I don't want to miss that are kind of timely like that. So anyway, I've been using it to get those and watch those. And yeah, you can find all kinds of great stuff on there. The other thing that I want to just let people know about, I don't know if we've mentioned it on the show, and by the time the show comes out, it might actually be too late for people to make plans. But we are going to be in San Francisco on March, 29th, 30th? 31st? 30th and 31st and 1st.
Yeah, 30th, 31st, and some of us will be there the 1st.
Yeah, I won't be there the 1st, but these two guys will. And, we're going to be at Build Conference. We're going to be participating in their podcast area. We're going to be talking to a lot of people at the conference and hopefully getting some Microsoft input on some of the stuff going on in the mobile world. So if there are particular ideas that you have, of course, I think this comes out on the 30th, if I remember right. So anyway, let us know. Also, I've been talking to a few people, particularly Pete Hodgson, about pulling together a meetup for people who like this show and the JavaScript Jabber show, who are also going. So if you want to meet up with us, we'll be meeting up somewhere near the conference on the 30th, is what I'm looking at, or the 31st. I don't remember. Anyway, it'll be one of those nights. I'm going to be sending emails around if you get updates on this show or any of the other shows that we do on devchat.tv. So yeah, keep an ear out for that. If you're not in San Francisco, I'm just going to throw a few other dates and cities out because I am traveling a bit this year. So I'm actually flying from San Francisco to Las Vegas, and I'll be in Las Vegas from the 1st until the 6th. So if you're in Las Vegas, I think I'm pulling something together on the 3rd is what I think I figured out. So if you're in Las Vegas, again, I'm going to be sending emails out and letting you know where to go and where to meet up. And then in May, the Adventures in Angular and JavaScript Jabber crews are getting together for ngConf, and we're going to be doing sessions at ngConf, and that's in Salt Lake City. So if you want to come hang out in Salt Lake City with us, and we'll see if we can get Andrew to come too. We're going to be doing that somewhere around the conference venue, which is the Grand America Hotel downtown, and yeah, so that should be fun. And then in July, on July 9th, I'm going to be doing another get-together in Chicago because I'll be there for Podcast Movement. And so we're working all that out. And then it looks semi-likely that I'll be in Nashville sometime in November. So if you're looking to meet me, Chicago or Nashville, yeah, just keep an eye out or an ear out. And if you are fans of those other shows, then definitely come out and see us. And like I said, if you're on the mailing list, you'll get notified. You can get on the mailing list by going to iPhreakshow.com, and if you haven't been on the page before, it'll slide down with the little thing that says get the top 10 episodes of the iPhreaks show in your inbox, and if you enter your email address in there, then you'll get these notifications too. I'm trying to get together a landing page for that. I've been busy and haven't gotten to it. So anyway, long-winded, come meet us, come meet me. The thing that's really nice about these meetups, though, is that it's one thing to speak into a mic and know that it's getting recorded and going out to people, and it's another thing when we get a chance to talk, say, on Skype or something with a listener, and I've done that fairly frequently. In fact, you can do that by going to iPhreakshow.com/15minutes. However, it's an entirely different thing, and for me, it's much more fulfilling because I really get to know who people are and feel like we connect in sort of a person-to-person manner when we can do it in person. So please come out, especially if you're in San Francisco, since James and Andrew and I will all be in the same place. And I know Pete will be there because he said he was going to come. So, yeah, so definitely please come.
And with Pete there, we're having a local pick out the spot, so it's all good.
Yep. Yeah, he's already given me a recommendation or two. So I'm just ironing out the details, and I'll make a reservation. But I am also collecting RSVPs for that. So if you haven't gotten the email about it, because I did send one already, just shoot me an email, chuck@devchat.tv, or tweet at me @cmaxw and say you're going to come, and I'll add you to the head count. Even if you think you might be able to come, if it's a better than 50% chance you'll show up, then let us know, and we'll count you in.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And if you're going to be at Build Conference, come find us. And I guess we'll leave it there. We'll wrap up, and we'll catch you all next week.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Do you guys know, or I guess Chuck, you're the one. Do you know anything about the plans for San Francisco?
So I know that they're booking the hotels. I booked my flight and sent Richard the information so that he can reimburse me.
I did too. Haven't heard anything back.
I haven't heard anything back. I'm assuming most of the conferences I've gone to where they've paid for expenses, you either have to let them book it through their travel agency, or if you're getting reimbursed like you and I are doing, then they'll give us a check when we get there.
Okay, I'm not worried about it. I meant more like, are we, do we have certain times and days that we're supposed to be somewhere at the conference and do things, or do we not?
I haven't heard anything about that. I am going to find out more details so that I know what I have to bring in order to make this stuff work.
Okay, and then that's the other thing I was going to ask. Is there anything I need to bring?
Yeah.
Besides myself.
Yeah, I know Richard's trying to get the rest of this finalized, but yeah, we're 2 weeks out, so we need to know these details.
I would also sort of like to know, just because I'd like to be able to plan my time a little bit there. Like there are people in San Francisco that I know, and it'd be nice to meet up with them, but I don't want to plan something that won't work and that kind of thing.
Yeah, makes sense. I'll email Richard and see if I can get the details. Or I'll have Mandy email Richard and see if she can get the details.
Sounds good.
All right.
Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
So yeah, we're doing the video podcast.
What do you mean?
Oh, you're releasing a video?
Well, I set up a Hangout on Air, so this will be live. Of course, I hit the button late, so whatever.
Okay. I'm always looking at this. My mic's over here, so I don't get the echo off my screen, which is massive. So
Uh-huh.
I'm always like when I'm talking and listening, I'm always like, feel a little weird.
Yeah, and my office is a complete mess. I had no idea that I was going to be on video today. So
Well, I didn't either, but Skype was not cooperating.
yeah, I know.
If it does this again next week, I'm probably going to find another option. So,
Yeah, it was pretty annoying.
yeah. There are a few other things that I've looked at using, so we can just switch.
Okay.
Oh, where should we put pics?
Oh yeah.
Hangout or Skype?
No, put them in Skype so Mandy can get them.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. See y'all.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Stop broadcast.